Welcome to Uncommon Sense, where we do our best to make it common again. I'm your host, Adrian Ahlquist, and today I'm joined by Father Leese, who is the Senior Director for Academic Initiatives and Partnerships at the University of Notre Dame London Global Gateway, and he provides oversight for the Notre Dame's GK Chesterton Collection, which is the largest repository for items that belongs to Chesterton in the world. I almost want to say Chesterton relics, but we're not there yet. And so also I'm joined by another person, Nancy Brown, who's going to be my guest co-host today. And so I'll first ask Father Leese, how are you?
I'm well, and I'm honored to be able to be with you today. Thank you.
Great. For those who clicked on this podcast episode, I imagine you may have read his name a little differently. Looks like Lies. I'm just wondering if you get any flack for that, Father.
Indeed. We have this joke in my family that my parents gave each of their 10 children the middle name Never, so that Mary never lies, Tom never lies, and Jim. But it is, in fact, a Luxembourger name that we pronounce Leese in the Luxembourger way. So
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Not many work that out, as you can imagine. And Father Jim, Father Jim Lies just doesn't work for me.
No. And Nancy, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Adrian, and so glad to be with you today, Father. Yeah, this is such a privilege.
Great. Yeah. So I think Nancy and I are going to trade off questions so we don't overstep. But Nancy, feel free to jump in whenever you want. Also, I want to encourage people to go and visit the collection online and look at it. I'll put the link in the description for info about it. But you can also Google GK Chesterton Collection Notre Dame, and I'm sure it'll come up. And I encourage everyone to become a Knight of the Society of GK Chesterton. We really do need your help, and you can join our Elite Giving Society and contribute to our mission, which is to evangelize through education. So if you go to chesterton.org/knights, you can become a Knight there. So without further ado, Father Leese, how did you get involved with this Chesterton collection? And can you give us kind of a brief overview of what it covers, what it is, for those who don't know?
I appreciate that. Yes. This Chesterton Library was housed formerly at the Oxford Oratory, and we acquired it in August of 2019, and it's since been relocated here into the room in which I'm speaking to you from. We call it Fisher Hall near Trafalgar Square in central London, and it's the home site for the University of Notre Dame's academic programs here in London as well. It's got a marvelous history, and I'll say a little more about that perhaps during this podcast. But and I'll also refer you to our website so you can learn more. But it was truly the person who is most responsible is a gentleman named Aidan Mackey. Mr. Mackey is in Oxford. We acquired it from the Oxford Oratory, which was its last permanent home. It was in the library at the Oxford Oratory. Aidan Mackey is a prominent Chesterton expert, and among the only surviving individuals had close connections to Chesterton circles, particularly Dorothy Collins, Chesterton's private secretary, and all of you know this, but a virtual daughter to GK and Francis Chesterton.
Yeah, we're good friends with Aidan Mackey. I've known him since I was a kid, and he was old then. So he's still alive and kicking, though. It's amazing. I hope to talk to Aidan soon again. But yeah, he's one of the foremost experts on Chesterton, probably rivaling my dad in knowledge about Chesterton. Yeah. So Nancy, yeah,
97. I mean, it's
97. I forgot how. That's amazing. Yeah, it's just amazing. Yeah. So Nancy, did you have a question?
No, just to give you, first of all, a little background on Aidan. We had a summer conference this past July, and he registered as a virtual attendee and attempted to watch the conference. He had a little trouble technically, but he even emailed me and said, "I'm trying to log on. I'm having trouble." So I was just amazed that he, even got to that point. But so, yeah. Father, did you know Father Jerome, who was in charge of the collection when it was in Oxford?
Yeah. I did. I came to know him very well. We were approached probably about 5 years ago about possible interest in acquiring the collection. Because it had been at the Oxford Oratory, they were expanding their library for their own uses. They run their seminary program out of the oratory in Oxford, and so we made a bid for it. There was an application process, and we bid for it. Although there was no cost to it, we had to articulate an argument and the future of the collection. The part of the agreement was that it remain in London and available to the British people and to scholars from all over the world. And we're very happy to do that. We hope this is our permanent site too. It's a lovely spot in London. And I did come to know Jerome very well, and as you know, he recently died. It was a great heartache for us. But he was the one ultimately who facilitated the transition. I think of most prominence in the history of this collection are Aidan Mackey, Stratford, and Leonie Caldecott, and then certainly Jerome. He was instrumental in caring for it over the last many years, and really died soon after the transition, sadly, of cancer.
Mm. So you said that this is open to English people there and scholars. Would we be able to see it if, let's say, I wanted to go over there and view it? Would it be open to someone like me, or it's just someone who wanted to see it? Maybe I'm an exception, but
Nancy, yes, but you, Adrian, no.
Oh, wow.
Yes, of course. I should point out, though, that the pandemic has set us way back. So we have not actually technically opened. You can see that we've been able to build it out beautifully, and it is. We had hired an archivist we had offered a position to an archivist just as the pandemic began, and then Notre Dame felt a need to cancel any jobs that had not yet technically been filled. And so for the past 2 years, and we only just yesterday learned that we've hired an archivist to help put it in order. Yeah, and then ultimately we'd like to digitize the collection as well and make it available much more broadly, partly with the help of the University of Notre Dame's Hesburgh Library. But Adrian, to your point, we do intend to have it open to the public for sort of scheduled visits. We're not going to have a full-time staff running it, though we have 20 people on staff here doing other things. We will have an archivist in place to arrange the collection, to catalog and sort. And then we will ultimately, the great dream is to have a Chesterton scholar here on the long term who teaches courses for our students and then engages the wider community and the worldwide community on all matters Chesterton. I should point out one thing, though, Adrian. You were very kind to describe our collection as the premier and largest, but it probably may not fit that bill. The British Library has a marvelous collection. We're excited to be near it because cumulatively, that could be the case. I think the British Library, coupled with ours, we have a slightly different content, but it is a remarkable collection. But I didn't want to.
That's good. I didn't know that. Yeah.
Well, I wish it were as you say, but I thought I better correct the record.
Maybe it will become the largest.
Certainly
that or my dad's study. Yeah.
Well, Father, my understanding, isn't there some? Maybe Aidan told me that some of the things that are in your collection were actually rejected by the British Library.
They were. I think it was largely, and now I'm going on a limb here, that they might not value the same things that those of us who love Chesterton for other reasons might value them. So we have this marvelous rosary that you certainly would know of. I should have had it here. It's boxed up still, but it is in this collection. It's quite a large and hanging matter, but it's magnificent. And so there were a number of items that you can imagine that the British Library might not want. And there's some ephemera, like a small writing table and chairs and some of his bowler hats and his some canes and some things that would classically be first-class relics if that day came. But I can see where the library may not have wanted some of it, and much of it was likely duplicates too. And so there is a probably, although I can't swear to it, I suspect there's quite a crossover between some of our items and theirs.
Sure.
Yeah, we kind of already mentioned it, but will there be a complete digital version of the collection, or will it just be parts of it to tease people?
That is our great hope. Adrian. I mean, we that's the direction we're going. We're hoping to be able to confirm that before very long, but it's certainly our intention. Some of it has to do with costs and staffing and, the variety of things that would be necessary, but it's certainly our hope. The University of Notre Dame Hesburgh Library has a marvelous Chesterton collection as well. And I know your father has been there, and David Fagerberg is there, who's quite a remarkable Chesterton scholar. And we'd love to be able to access that virtually from here and from they to us from there, so that, there's an expansive means by which these holdings can be accessed.
Cool.
So, Father, some people might not know the Chesterton connection to Notre Dame from years past. Do you know much about that connection?
I know a bit about that, Nancy. That's a softball, and I'm glad to hit it out of the park. Chesterton was invited by Father O'Donnell, one of our Holy Cross priest presidents, in the late 1920s, to come and visit Notre Dame and do a series of lectures. He came for 5 weeks with Francis, and he gave a lecture in Washington Hall each night. And they were hugely attended. I mean, it's a remarkable thing to imagine now that any one person could walk into a lecture hall that many 4 nights a week and give lectures that were hugely attended. And he barely had a note. It was a remarkable recollection of many. It's in Maisie Ward's biography, but she also said that he, of Notre Dame, he said, when I received the invitation, I wasn't at all sure where Notre Dame was, but with a name like that, I knew I would be quite happy to be there. And so it was really very sweet. He said, "Were it in the mountains on the moon, I should be quite happy to be there." So it was really quite sweet, and it's a point of great pride. He received an honorary degree at that time, and Father O'Donnell even then said he wanted to raise the scholarly and Catholic, credentials of Notre Dame, and so he invited Chesterton. There was a recognition, even in his lifetime, of what a remarkable contribution he was making, both as a journalist and author. He was a polymath of the highest order, as you know.
Mm-hmm. So it's wonderful to have that Chesterton Notre Dame connection connected again.
It's a delight for us, and it's really part of the reason we went after it. Father John Jenkins, who's the president at the University of Notre Dame, studied at Oxford and at Campion Hall and did his PhD there. But he was hugely helpful in assisting us in ensuring our we didn't know it would be a successful bid, but in supporting us in acquiring it and since in building out the space and funding the archivist.
So can we talk about some of the items that are in the collection? Because I know if people go and visit it, they can see, but let's give them an appetizer.
Yes. I'm sorry, I won't know more than I do, simply because we truly just unpacked it. It's
okay. I don't want to put you on the spot. Yeah.
But some of the more interesting items are some of the things that I've mentioned. There's a number of his personal books, and many of his books as a schoolboy, in which he did quite a lot of doodling in the margins. We call it the margin area. And Aidan Mackey will say he was quite a vandal with books. We have obviously a large collection, some of his books, but a large collection of his writings. We also have a toy theater. He was very interested in toy theater, and we have some of the backdrops of the theater itself, and it's a very interesting style. I admit I didn't know a great deal about toy theaters until I saw what we've received here, and it's I can see where it could be a source of some interest and scholarly study. It's of a period, and I understand that some of that interest is coming back.
Do we have his rosary?
We do have his rosary. And if I were a better podcast interviewee, I would have had it here ready to show it to you. It's still packed up, but we do have it, and we're honored and delighted. That's the thing we've been most has been most requested since we've been in place. We haven't been able to open because of the delays, but when people have requested things, we try to satisfy that on a private basis. But it's been difficult because we really want to make sure it's in good working order before we start bringing in the public. But we're eager to do that, and I wouldn't want anybody to think we're holding
Yeah,
off.
it's funny you mentioned this was your first podcast interview, and you're already a professional. Also, I think you are the first priest that we have had as a guest, or at least that I have had. I'm pretty sure that's true. I'm sorry if I forgot another priest, but I am pretty sure. So that's also an honor.
It's an honor for me. Thank you.
Yeah, Nancy, did you have another question?
Yes, Father. I was wondering if you could tell us how you first got introduced to GK Chesterton.
My father died very young. I was 4 years old, and my mother was expecting their 10th child, and she had 10 children under 14. And she kept his favorite books, and on it was orthodoxy. And though I didn't read it in my youth, I tried to read it when I was too young, and you can imagine how off-putting that would be because it was so beyond me. I thought, oh my God, I'll never know my father. But that first piqued my interest. And then I went to a Catholic high school, a boarding high school. 5 of my brothers and I went. And our freshman year, we had an English literature course in which we read The Man Who Was Thursday. Infinitely more accessible and quite enjoyable. And then ever after, I've been curious and interested in Chesterton.
Cool. That's interesting.
And have since delighted in orthodoxy, I should tell you.
That's good. I can agree with you that when you read it when you're too young, sometimes it doesn't work.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask, why is this Chesterton collection important to have? Because especially when it comes to keeping his writings, because you can find Chesterton writings online, for free actually once we have the CDL completely ready. But by the way, people can go there right now, library.chesterton.org. Correct, Nancy?
That's correct.
Well done.
Yes. Okay, but so why why is this important? Why is it important to maintain this?
I think there's a couple of reasons. One is the historical aspect. There's things that can't be replaced. They're in some ways priceless. He held them. He wrote them. It's really part of his life, his time, and it's a great honor for us. It's also that it's such a remarkable mission fit for the University of Notre Dame to have a collection that is erudite, but sort of prominently Catholic, a great apologist, a great defender of the faith. There's all kinds of reasons why it's synchronous with who we are as an institution, and why we would want to be the repository for this and to collect it and to make it more available. We love the access that's been made available of his works, and we intend to be a source for that as well. So, but we don't see that as the same thing as actually being in the room, and so that's kind of the excitement around it. We want to do preservation work and take good care of it. There won't be a lot of handling of the materials by everyone, but to see them and to carefully handle them in the ways that will be prescribed when people visit us, and that they use them for research, that they inform people's thinking, and that they are further elucidated for the wider populace.
Yeah, it makes sense because having the physical possessions is meaningful to people. It's not just with saints either. It's with a hero of someone's. They want the physical things, and it helps us remember. I think that's a big thing, and there's evidence of that, of having physical works rather than everything being digital. People will be able to remember better and have a stronger memory. So there's evidence of that. That's my only point.
Yeah, I might just say this. It's either to your father's credit or his fault, but there's this perception that Chesterton is far better known in the U.S. than he is even in the U.K. And part of our mission is to make the son of the U.K. Better known and better read and understood. And so it's an honor for us. That's why we're very happy to honor the request of the GK Chesterton Trust, from whom we received the collection, to keep it in London and to make it available.
I think that's a worthy goal to help the British public to recognize Chesterton as, their honored son. Well, Father, one of the things that you said earlier that you alluded to was that you might have lectures and things like that. I thought I read online that there was going to be an opening of this collection. Is that put off because of the pandemic, or is that still happening this fall?
It had been put off. It was meant to happen last year in October.
Right.
We're actually a bit up in the air now about whether it's going to happen this fall. So I wouldn't want to say too much. Our great hope is to have a dedication and an opening soon. If we have to have a soft opening before we actually have an event that would bring people in person, as you know, things have been complicated all over the world, but certainly in the UK. So it's gotten more complicated than we had anticipated it might be as the fall comes. So we're reserving that for perhaps another day, or perhaps a virtual event. We've not decided, but you're right to know and as to say that we're going to have an opening, perhaps a soft opening, and then a later dedication. But we're certainly hoping to be open this fall. You know what I mean, as a collection. So that's certainly our goal.
Sure. Okay. Good. Thank you.
Cool. Well, I'm almost that almost answers all my questions. Nancy, did you have any other burning ones?
I heard that there's a box of Francis Chesterton things that got sorted and sent over there.
Nancy, you might know more about what we have than I do, because I don't know that for sure, but it may well be. I do know it has a so it's very multifaceted with books and personal effects and art, but it also has demonstrations of his sort of imaginative engagement. The things he himself was reading, some of the art that he did, and things like that. So it's a really multifaceted collection, and I think many different people will find it very interesting. We hope to provide both an archive, sort of a Chesterton library collection, but also a bit of a museum aspect where you can learn about Chesterton. Many people will want to see it just because they know it's Chesterton's, even if they're not scholars. And so we really do want to be open to that. I should just mention that Professor Joanne Delaneva was the director of this program in London as we were doing it. And she and I worked very closely to see that the proper proposal was put forward. So I just wanted to mention her because she was remarkable in her efforts to acquire that.
Yeah, I see that you have Dorothy Collins' typewriter too. That's really cool. But yeah, people can go to the site. I'll put the link in the description on YouTube. And yeah, I mean, check it out. It's that's so amazing and so interesting. Yes. So Father Jim Leese, if there's anything else, let me know. But otherwise, thank you so much for being on. It's really means a lot. And again, everyone check it out. And then also check out chesterton.org/knights and consider becoming a knight. If you're not a member, you can also become a member. And that's a lower barrier to entry. And you can go to chesterton.org/membership. And thank you, Nancy. Thank you for helping me host this episode. It's a pleasure to be with you. And thank you all for listening. Until next time, help us to make uncommon sense more common.